Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How's that?
Better.
Good.
All right, so these are going to be on Les Escoumins, Quebec, Canada. And for those that don't know where it is, up in the top, I typed out Les Escoumins in blue with a little arrow. So from, I would say, the Boston area, my house, it's about, well, it took me 14 hours to drive up there. And it also includes a ferry ride where Tadoussac is. It's a free ferry, and I'm pretty sure the ferry runs like 24 hours a day, so it's never an issue. You don't need a reservation or anything. You just drive up to the end of the road there and just wait for a ferry. And they're very large ferries that just go back and forth. Typically, there's 2 ferries, and so that's never an issue. Waiting maybe 20 minutes at most. And that you're actually going over the Saguenay River, which is a fjord, and there's also diving there, but I'm just focusing on the marine park, which is Les Escoumins. And this is the aerial view. So up on the upper left is the marine park entrance, and there's like a little, I don't want to say an aquarium, but you can go in there. They have all displays on what you can see. A lot of buses will go there, so you don't really have to be a diver to explore this area. There's people explaining like little biology segments on what you'll see and how rich this environment is. And underneath that building is a dive shop, and I'll display the hours. They're not open all of the time, but they're open. And when they are open, they have wagons that you can put your gear in, because as you can see, the green arrows are where you enter. So it's a long walk, and it is over some rocks, but what they do is where the arrow is on the bottom, you can even see they built cement stairways into the water. So it's very convenient. And then on the other side, which is the east entrance, they also have it pretty easy. And there's tables where you can set up your gear. After your dive, they have showers that you can actually walk in to with your gear on, or they have hoses and picnic tables to wash your gear. So it's very convenient for divers. This is the dive shop that's located on the bottom floor of that building. You can get air fills. I've always gone the long weekend of October. It's their Thanksgiving. They don't celebrate like we do, but a lot of people go out for that time, because then that'll be it. It'll be snowy and colder. Oh, for some reason.
What was the water temperature?
The water temperature, even in the summer, is in like the 30s.
Wow.
It's very cold. I don't know why my screen isn't moving.
I guess you did a dry suit.
Dry suit, but there's a lot of the divers up there. I don't know if they're used to it, but they go in wetsuits. Not a lot of them, but
Those are just tough Canadians.
quite a few had wetsuits and wet gloves. I don't know why my screen is stuck.
You're like clicked into the presentation.
Oh, that was weird. My mouse worked and the arrow did not. So once you get down the dirt path, you can't bring the carts down onto the rocks, but you can get up to the dirt path, and then what they have is boardwalks, and then they cemented into the stonework here where it's, I mean, it's not easy, but they make it as easy as possible. And where you enter is a little bit towards the right-hand side of that crack. And then they also have, that's Jake, for you those who know, you know, Jake. They have a line that goes from where you enter the water down to about 100 feet on both entrances. So this is the east entrance, and the one in front of the marine building is the west entrance. And here's everybody, there's the stairs, so everybody goes in and out of that one location, except for that one guy. He doesn't mind sliding in, but it's easier here because there's big platforms that you can stand on that are made out of cement, and you can get your fins on and get your gear ready that way. And typically the visibility is pretty good. I would say anywhere from like maybe 15 feet to 25 on a good day. And the way I'm doing it is what you'll see at like different depths. So when you go in the water, the first, say, 15, 20 feet, you'll see tons of these polar sea stars. And they're always pretty cool to photograph because they, you know, have all these different positions of their arms. And there's blankets of green sea urchins. So make sure your buoyancy is pretty good once you get in, because you'll be on these. There's like sheets of them. And you can see some of the soft coral is growing even in the shallows. Then there's a wall. If you're looking at the exit point to the right-hand side, and it's covered in these, they're hydroids. And they're very odd, but there's so many, and there's usually nudibranchs in this area too. And here's the line that goes down to 100 feet, and there's so much growth. You could just photograph the line with the different animals that are on it. And then you can, the way it's set up is if you go straight, either left to the right of that line, there's tons of growth. And then if you go way to the left, that's more of a bay. And then it kind of settles out into some rocky areas. But this is, it's not a wall, but it's like a steeper slope at this east entrance. And even in the shallows and at the depths, you'll find almost on all of the dives, these little spiny lump suckers. Some not so tiny. This was a quite large one in front of a soft trunket clam. Somebody ate it. They're usually in the craziest spots, but after a while I got him. He kept hiding between these sea urchins. Some of them are like maybe a half an inch, and then the bigger one was probably like 5 inches.
Andrea, what kind of camera were you shooting?
This is a TG4. And
Olympus? Is that an Olympus?
yes, the Olympus TG4. And then it just depends. Sometimes I have 1 strobe, 2 strobes, and then I typically use a solar spotting light. And along the line is, and then like a few feet to either side are usually good spots where you can find the wolffish. This was a smaller one, but there are some deeper holes, but they're hard to photograph because the fish will go way inside, and then you can never get the right lighting. But there's at least 5 or 6 spots where I've found them over the few trips that I've been up there. And then these are Arctic shanties. They're very sociable. Now, this is typically what you'll see, like everywhere. These rocks covered in anemones, sea stars, the knobbed anemone, which is not found around here locally, and up there it's everywhere. The scarlet solus is giant. The northern red anemones, they're a little bit different than I think they grow differently. Like the ones here we see are so beautiful. They're kind of like bland looking for some reason, but of course they're still beautiful to see. Lots of barnacles. These are all knobbed anemones and scarlet solus. Everything is quite large there. Those are sea peaches, polar star, scarlet solus. And this isn't just like a single rock. This is like the entire slope is covered with this life. I think the northern reds look best when they're young up there, and then they get like very odd shape. I don't know what it is. I think it might be an orange-footed sea cucumber, but those again, they're giant. There it is. And then here are some of the knobbed anemones. You can see on the base why they call them knobbed anemones. Frilled anemone, that is.
Andrea, what are the depths of these anemones?
Well, I would say like maybe, I mean, you can find them like 40 feet, 60 feet. You know, they're literally everywhere. And this past trip, I really didn't go far from that line. So maybe like if your first time there, you don't want to venture off too far. There's a lot of life right at the line. You know, you could go 10 feet, 20 feet one way, come back to the line, go on to the other side. And as you get closer to the shore, there's like a sheer rock wall. And usually like I'd end my dive there because there's tons of life on the wall. But different life. You would probably see more nudibranchs there and just other growth.
Gorgeous.
It really is. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful place. This here, one of the northern red anemones was eating some sort of jellyfish or hydroid. Yeah, and it's just like I'm shooting just not with a wide angle, so like you can't even, like I couldn't even show you exactly what it looks like. You'd have to like videotape your whole dive, but every rock is covered like that. Not so bad, northern red, when they're small. And then scattered throughout this whole area, you'll find these smooth sun stars in different shades. And they're large, very large. And then there's spiny sun stars. Like these, I typically would go maybe a little bit further away from the line because there's a lot of action, a lot of people use that line. So I don't want to say it gets worn out, but underneath there's like a lot of sand and gravel. So like I probably, you know, to find these, I went maybe 30 feet to the left or 30 feet to the right. And at different depths.
It looks pretty dark down there, or is that just the effect of your flash? Can you dive without a camera and without a light and see these or not?
You can. I would still recommend a light. You know, because then you could just explore like one little area with the light. Because like there might be like these huge boulders, and then usually like explore the whole area, and then you'll find different things on it. Like sometimes, like this last trip in October, it was these sun stars, the spiny sun stars, but they were like underneath the rocks. Not underneath, but like in a darker part of it. And it seemed like the other sun stars, the smooth, were more out in the open. Except for this guy.
Did
His
he eat
muscle
all,
head.
did he eat all of that?
I don't know what I think he was, I don't know. It looked like someone almost placed him there.
Come
I
on.
came up on it like that. I was like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. Pretty cool composition you have right there.
Yeah, and these are blood stars, and they're huge. Like the blood stars we see, you know, local at Old Garden Beach, or I don't know, an inch or so, and these were really, they're big. And this one, this is a nudibranch, and it was giant. I didn't take I don't have a lot of nudibranch photos in here because we can find them around. It's just seeing the other beautiful life that's there. And I'm not saying these are not beautiful, but I was just focusing in on the larger animals. Although this one was my favorite. It's a margate, that little shell. And I didn't know, I just thought it was a margate with a barnacle. But then when I loaded up the pictures, I saw that's a barnacle eating nudibranch on the barnacle, which is on the shell. And of course, there's the chitin next to it. But that was, I have to say, that's probably one of my best finds there. And that shell, it's probably less than a half an inch. So it's so small. So there's tons of macro there, but I'm showing like more of the bigger stuff. And this, I never saw a chitin that was all yellow, and that was just beautiful. And then there's snailfish, all sizes. This one was tucked deep inside this crevice. I thought it was like a piece of sponge, and then I noticed it had an eye. This snailfish was absolutely huge. I mean, it had to be 10 inches, if not more. And it was down at 100 feet. So the area was like more like silty sand and maybe a single rock here and there. Whereas there's a lot more life and color, I would say like 60 feet and above. But we were just following the line just to see what was down there, and it was worth the trip. And that's, believe it or not, that is a tiny snailfish on that soft coral stem. It doesn't look it, but I zoomed in and it is. And then it swam away after. There's tons of soft coral. It's like blanketed. Hermit crabs in a whelk.
Did you have a filter to be able to get the colors at that depth?
No filter, no. I think the flash and the lighting helps. Soft coral is just beautiful. I think that's a little limpet in the foreground. The limpets are really big up there, and there's like a few different, I don't know if they're a few different species or what, but I noticed the different color patterns on the tops. Yeah, it's just soft coral, more or less on the west entrance, opposed to the east. And here is the west entrance. You can see there's like, it looks like some red brick kind of in the stone. Those are the steps that lead down to steps that go into the water. And again, this entrance also has the line. I don't know, I've never gone very deep on this side. But the line is there. And then there's a lot of walking to get to the entrance, going down, but then coming back up. It's quite the haul. Yeah, and all that red cement is like areas for better footing. So they do try to make it easy, for divers getting in and out. And then this just doesn't even do it justice, but you can do, depending on the tide, you can do a drift from the east entrance to the west exit or vice versa. You want to go on an incoming tide from the west to east, or an outgoing tide from the east to west on an incoming, and then west to east on an outgoing tide. And the wall, if you just stayed at like, say, 30, 40 feet, the whole rock ledge is covered in soft coral, as far as you could see. And then always look up, because there's all kinds of hydroids and jellyfish in the water, in the column. And on the west entrance, it's where this one area you can find, and I really wanted to see this. It's a spoonworm, but you have to really sneak up on it quietly and like really not make any like bubble, like a lot of loud bubbles, because it'll retract in the hole and won't come out. So it took a couple of years of trying to get that worm, but it's interesting. It has like little conveyor belts that'll sift through the sand and push it all the way down to the mouth, which is inside the hole. So that was nice. We found it right away. And then there's comb jellies and all sorts of stuff floating in the water. One year we were there, it was a lot of krill. And you can sometimes hear whales while you're diving here, because there's tons of whales that go back and forth. 2 years ago, we saw a pod of 30 beluga whales on the surface. And these are my friends that introduced me to the site. I met them on a dive boat, Cape Ann Divers, and we just got chit chat, and then they said, "Oh, you dive here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I dive here all the time." I says, "Oh, where you from?" And they said, "Canada." And I says, "Oh, do you ever dive Les Escoumins?" And they go, "Yeah, we go every October." I say, "Okay, please call me." And they did. So it was wonderful, having them take me there and show me the site. They weren't able to make it tonight. They had some other business going on, but I did let them know that they can see it on the replay. And that's it.
Bravo.
Yeah, great pictures.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Really
Yeah,
nice.
fantastic.
Thank you, Andrea.
Yeah, really nice.
What were the tides? Do you remember how the tides were?
Well, you don't have to go at a slack tide or anything like that. It's just that if you enter on the east and you want to do a drift, just so you're not kicking against the outgoing tide, just go it on an incoming. So the east entrance, an incoming tide, because you'll just meander. Although some of the group said that they made it over there in like less than 10 minutes, but there might have been the timing or a full moon or what have you. But we did it and we barely got an hour. And that's another thing. Like I always like to stay in the water as long as I can. You're barely in there for an hour without being frozen solid because the water is like 36, 34 I've been. So last October was like 36, 37. And then of course it was very windy. So you just never warmed up, but we tried doing 2 dives a day. And then on the west entrance, if you wanted to do the drift, you would go on an outgoing tide. So you can basically dive here at any time. Just if you want to do that drift is when you would have to know the incoming or outgoing. And in this picture, you can almost see the other side of the St. Lawrence River. So it's very big. It's salt water. I know part of the St. Lawrence, a lot of people dive. It's freshwater where the wrecks are. This is very far from there. So.
Hey,
Are there
Andrea?
any sort of accommodations?
There's a hotel and I stayed at a campground with my friends, but I've stayed at the hotel a few times. And then there's a place called Les Escoumins, and they have condos. They have like teepees that are really nice teepees. They're like made out of wood.
Mhm.
And they also have cabins like you in this Les Escoumins. They have like log cabins and other types of cabins. So, and there's also Airbnb.
Mhm.
So you do have to drive, from wherever you're staying. Like I was from the campground I stayed at, it was like 9 kilometers.
Yeah, it's nothing.
And the hotel was maybe 12, not even 12 kilometers. So it's a very quick drive. And there's a grocery store in town. So if you have like a condo, you can get food. Well, we usually bring some food up with us. And there's a few restaurants around. I never go out to the restaurants, but there's several restaurants that are very good too.
Cool, thanks.
Hey, Andrea, can you show the map slide again?
What slide?
The map one? Someone's asking.
A map?
The map. I
Oh,
think
the
it was-
map.
Yes.
So let me try to get back. Right, that's, safe coming from the Boston area, Massachusetts. I went up this way. I stayed at my friend's in Montreal, and then we drove. So from Montreal, it's 6 hours to Les Escoumins. And then it was about 5 hours. But in the fall, it took me a long time to drive home because I kept stopping at all the rest areas, taking pictures of foliage. And I get home at 1 o'clock in the morning. So I said, I'm not going to do that again. Because it's absolutely beautiful. Like once you get like past Quebec City, and then this is like a mountainous road that just follows alongside of the river. And it's not like the Rocky Mountains, but the big mountains, and you can see the river, and there's not much up there. It's just a lot of wilderness. So the ride is beautiful. And even coming from home, going up through Vermont, like I usually go like 89 through Vermont, and then Dummersville or Drummondsville or something, like if you don't go to Montreal, and then just go up from there. So it's like a little bit northwest of Sherbrooke is where you would cut over. And that's all like farm country roads for hours and hours. And then that's the closer. So this is like the pretty part of the ride. All these are like little villages and towns that you can go through. Plenty of gas stations along the way. You never have to worry like you're in no man's land. There are several gas stations. And even right in Les Escoumins, lots of gas stations there too. And then that's the shop with the hours. So they are limited for the fact that it's so cold up there. You know, they only open up on the weekends, May and June, and then June, mid-June up to September, they're open all the time. And it's good because if you only have 2 tanks, you can just keep getting them filled. It's not like, I know when we go up to Eastport, we bring like 8 tanks because there's not many places to get them filled up there.
You had your friends you went with. Do you need a guide if you've never been there before?
At the dive shop, you can hire a guide, and I would highly recommend that. Just because, if you're new to the site, and they'll help, they'll probably point stuff out because they know where the wolf fish is, and I would highly recommend it. It is a place, you could go alone, like with your buddy, but I think it would be much better, to have a guide. There is a big language barrier there, though. They do speak French, like everywhere. The restaurants, but they try to accommodate you, but I don't know any French. So when I go with my friends, it's very easy because they do all the talking. But like at the dive shop, they speak English. But their main language is French.
Awesome. Well, excellent presentation. Thank you, Andrea.
Yeah.
I loved the big snailfish. I had no idea that they got that big. I've only ever heard of the tiny ones before, so loved getting to see that.
Yeah, that had to be the best find ever.
Yeah. Yeah, real treasure there.
Yeah.
Awesome. So if no one else has any questions, then we will have Liz go next.
Cool. Thank you, Matt. Let me.
I think Andrea has to unshare. There we go.
Boom. Okay.
Yay.
So, yay.
Hi, Liz.
Hello. I had a good time going through a bunch of my photos and picking out 10 that, are they my 10 very favorite? I don't know. Some of them are. But we'll have a look, I guess. This is a bonus favorite. I just really, really liked for the cover slide. It's I think some Gorgonian coral with a Christmas tree worm kind of in the middle that I saw down in Bonaire. And I loved how the photo came out. So for the actual content of the 10 favorite, I'm going chronologically. And I have some notes about what sort of setup I'm using with each of the photos. And yeah, hopefully you'll like them too.
Wow.
So the first one I have here is one of the first underwater photos that I took that I really, really liked. I took this photo actually on the trip that spurred me buying the camera. It wasn't anywhere fantastic and tropical. It was just off the coast of Rockport. I was hoping to see seals. I did not see very many seals that day. The ocean was being a harsh mistress. We were being tossed around. Absolute chaos, but I managed to get still for long enough to get this shot of this anemone. And I really liked how it turned out. But even more, I showed it to my dad, who's a photographer, and he liked how it turned out. So that's how this one won a spot on the list of the favorites. I really like all the little muscles hanging out around it. It's framed kind of nicely there.
And Liz, what type of lighting do you use for that?
So for this one, I can't remember if I was using any lighting or not at that point. If I was, it would have just been, I've got a big blue torch. I don't remember which one it is, the AL, is it the 12 or the 13? The one in the yellow bag, anyway. So that's what I was lighting with at that point, if I was lighting at all.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. And then a few weeks later, I went on another seal dive up in Maine to Boone Island and actually saw a seal. Managed to take a few shots of the seals that I liked, but I kind of like how this one turned out as kind of almost an old-timey portrait of this seal. The way he's posing, the way he's looking, I really, really liked it. And this again was with my TG6. I can't remember if I used any lighting with it. I was still trying to figure out what the heck I was doing underwater with a camera at that point. But I was having fun. So I guess that's the important part. And when I started having a lot more fun was when I took the camera on some night dives. So this is, as you probably know, a moon snail that I saw up at Stage Fort Park in Gloucester. And I really liked how the sand kind of, with the darkness beyond where everything was illuminated, it kind of looked like a lunar landscape. And I thought that was really, really appropriate for the little snail that I was photographing. So I liked how that came out. And this again was with the TG6. I think I was still using my big blue torch to light at this point. Or I may have, at one point, and I don't remember when, I bought a solo video light to use as lighting instead, or in addition to my big blue torch that I had mounted on my housing. That may have been what I was using here, but I don't remember. I like moon snails. I like them a lot. This is a little bit of a fancier shot of a moon snail that I got at Old Garden Beach in July of 2022. So we fast forwarded almost a year, and now I'm getting kind of a better idea of what I'm doing with the camera, of what I want to do with the subject. So I'm taking photos a little more intentionally at this point, as opposed to just seeing something, thinking it's cool, and getting a shot of it. I'm actually composing it and feeling a lot better about what I'm capturing. This one, again, I can't remember if I was using lighting. I think I may have been using that solar video light for this one, probably, maybe, but I couldn't tell you for certain. I do recall that that week the water was a really, really gorgeous color blue. And that's one of the things I liked about this photo is that blue in the background. And then all that the algae growing on the snail's shell, that always makes me really, really happy. It's like it's got its own little world almost on its back. But this guy looked fancy, so I liked him. This, I don't think it was the same dive. I think it may have been a couple days or a week or so afterward. Same site, just up at Old Garden Beach. And the same, you know, same camera setup, same lighting setup. With this one, I saw the way that the sea star had kind of contorted its limbs, and it reminded me of something running away. Like the sea star was almost running away from all the urchins, and I thought that was really, really cool, and that would be a really neat story to kind of tell with this photo. So I took I think I took a couple shots, like 5 or 6. And this one was the one that, this is the winner. This one was the one that came out the way I liked it. Nobody was in the background. You can't see, but off to the right of the photo, there's a bunch of, I can't remember exactly who was with me that day, but my dive buddies off to the right. I had to get them out of the frame. But I like that. That's what does Louise call it? Urchin rock. There's a rock at Old Garden with all these urchins on it. You go out at about 0 and you might hit it.
That's it, Liz. Exactly.
Yep. Yeah, so I like going back to that rock to check out what's going on with the urchins. If there's anything.
Yeah, it's the one off to the left, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
and in
it.
early spring, you also will find a lot of juvenile fish in it.
Yeah. Well, that's why I saw the goosefish
Good to know.
last year. Yeah.
These are very important tips. I like it. New goal, find the goosefish.
Find the baby goosefish. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we are back to a night dive with, I don't know why it's one of my favorite creatures. I kind of like crabs in general. I couldn't tell you why, but I do. But particularly blue crabs, they're just kind of cool. And I saw this one during a night dive at Folly Cove. And it was just a complete feeding frenzy with all these little, I don't know, are they shrimp? Are they krill? Whatever the heck these guys are that are all around it. It was just going nuts with it. And I liked the way that this photo kind of got the detail of some of those little animals, but also the crab itself and the way the lighting hit it. I just wish that bit of algae hadn't been in the way. It would have been a lot nicer if it wasn't. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with it. And I'm fairly certain that by this point I was using the solar video light to light these.
No.
Moving on, we have a nifty lobster at Old Garden Beach. And I liked that he was carrying a crab shell, or what is that? It's a carapace, right? From a crab. I don't know, probably he's having a snack or something. But I found it really, really entertaining just to see this crab dragging this carapace across the sand. And later on that same dive, I finally got photos of the fabled lobster toilet, which is one of my favorite local underwater artifacts. If you've never seen it, it's exactly what it sounds like. I think a few of us may have photos of it. It's just a toilet lying on its side in the sand with a couple of enormous lobsters living in it. It's out at about 0 degrees. You have to go out in the muck though, past the reef. So out where it starts to get boring, and then look off maybe to the right a little bit. And there it is. It's pretty cool. All right. For number 9, we are now getting more exotic, as I finally took my diving out of the country and took myself to Bonaire in December. So here I'm still shooting with the TG6. I have upgraded at this point to an Olympus UFL 3 flash. I may have had, because I did bring 2 strobes on this trip, I may have had a CNC YS something or other as well. But one of them I didn't have hooked up half the time, and they weren't firing correctly half the time either, because I hadn't figured that out yet. But I think I had at least 1 strobe working for this photo. And I like the pop of color with the little fish. And you've got the really cool anemones hanging out in there, and then the pinks, and then that little bit of blue from the water in the background and everything. I don't know, it was incredible. I took photos of everything on that trip. I have so many bad pictures of fish. It was just delightful. It was so much fun. And because I had so much fun, and because I took so many bad pictures, I went back again in March. When I went back in March, I had upgraded my gear a little bit, or a lot of bit. So at this point, instead of the TG6, I've brought Olympus OMD EM5 in a fancy Nauticam housing with a super macro converter. And it blew my mind that I actually took this picture. I could not believe it when I looked at it. I was like, really? Holy crap, that looks cool. So this is one of my top 3 photos, definitely. And because I'm using that equipment, and because I'm starting, at this point I hadn't really decided whether or not I liked taking macro photography underwater. It's so difficult. You have to stay so still, and getting anything in focus, especially with a super macro converter, is just almost impossible. But I've decided I liked it. I think I like it. I'm pretty sure I like it. I'm a little bit hooked. And that takes me to my final photo. This guy that I took with pretty much that same setup yesterday morning at Back Beach. It's one of the first pictures of a nudie rink that I've taken that I really like how it turned out, that I was able to get any sort of detail in the head and in the little, I don't know, Matt probably knows the actual name, the sticky up bits on its back. I don't know, I really liked that one. And this one, again, it was just with 1 strobe, but that, again, that super macro converter. And this one was a pain in the neck because the water was really bouncy yesterday. I spent the entire, probably 50 minutes of this dive with just these 3 nudibranchs on one rock, taking blurry photo after blurry photo after blurry photo, trying to get this stupid thing to focus. But there are a couple that I liked, and this is one of them. So those are my 10, maybe my 10 favorite of all time, maybe not, but 10 that I really, really like.
Yay, very cool.
Thank you. Questions, concerns, complaints?
Nice job.
Thank you.
Very nice.
I think I'm having fun with this.
It's funny, before people joined, I was making a comment on how hard it is to stay still and surge up here to do super macro photography.
It's awful. It's awful. The entire stinking dive. And then sometimes you get a pause in the surge, so you're like, ooh, ooh, and it lines up, and then you get knocked over by another bit of surge.
I have pictures of you from above when we were on the dive the other, like, couple weeks ago. And you're like floating back and forth and back and forth. I can see the frustration in your face. Like, just sit still.
I'm trying my best.
You were.
Oh, that was a lot of fun. I got some
That
good
was
photos
fun.
on that one too. Heck
No, I saw
yeah.
them. They were great.
Oh, thank you.
You got some good nudies on that one.
I try.
Awesome. Well, fantastic job, Liz. I love in this last one, the like depth of field you get from it wrapping around. You can see the back of the animal back there as just the head kind of comes around, pokes forward. I think that's really good framing there. Gives you a lot of good context to the motion of the animal.
Yeah. I like that about it too. If you look closely, you can see these little kind of frilly dudes on there. I don't know what those are, if they're tiny polyps of some sort or barnacles, or there are a few of them photobombing a couple of my shots, and I like them. I like that I don't know what they are. The mystery confounds me.
It looks like you got a shrimp with the anemone and the fish in Bonaire. Did you see that?
Let's find out. Where? Got too many windows open.
That one.
There we go.
Is that a shrimp in
Do
there?
I have a shrimp?
Yeah, I think I see a shrimp right on the bottom of the anemone there.
Oh yeah, I do have a shrimp, and I've got a sharp-nosed puffer right to
Yeah.
just
Nice.
a bit to the left of 12 o'clock on the anemone.
That's great.
That's cool. I didn't notice that.
Wait, where's the shrimp? I still can't see it.
Let me.
It's down at the very
what
bottom
happens
of
if I
the
do
anemone.
this?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Just trying to figure out how to do that myself.
The secrets of Zoom.
Mhm.
I'm wondering what else is in there. Maybe an eel.
It's always amazing sometimes just taking the time to review pictures and you think you know what's going on, but then someone points something out. It's like, oh, I didn't even realize I took a picture of that.
Yeah. Cool stuff, fun stuff.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you, Liz. That was fantastic. You did a great job kind of showing the progression of your photography, how it's evolved over time, upgrading your setup and kind of learning what you want to focus in on. That was a great journey through your photography experience so far. And we can't wait to see what you keep doing from here.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, that is everything we have for tonight. As I mentioned before, Andy's feeling a little under the weather, so just the 2 presentations tonight. So we'll let everyone go a little bit early. Feel free to stay around, chat, ask any questions, anything like that. But yeah, a big thank you to Andrea and Liz. Excellent presentations as always. And we'll see you guys in next month's meeting.
Thank you.
Yay, thanks, everybody.